right, so I'm very, very fortunate to have Andy Smith on the Crown of Command tonight because, Andy, I've been chasing you down for a couple of weeks. I've been hounding you and wanting you to come on, and we've been exchanging some emails, and luckily you said that you would love to come on tonight. So I really want to thank you again for this opportunity because, yeah, I really want to know about yourself and how you got into this whole thing about collecting all these wonderful relics of artworks from some of the greatest artists at Games Workshop. So Andy, welcome, mate.
Hi, and yes, thank you for sort of inviting me. I'm sort of super excited, and I just want to say I'm kind of sort of a huge fan. I've kind of sort of been kind of sort of watching your stuff, and your kind of your passing sort of science through really. So yes, thank you for having me on.
No, mate, anytime you want to come on, mate, would love to talk to you.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm just a passion guy, mate. I'm just bringing it because it's the passion. You know, that's what it is. That's all I've got. that and maybe some brush skills.
Yeah.
But where you're at, Andy, is just something else, mate. That's a totally different level. I mean, I can only dream of having. I could only dream if I could win the lottery, and I've always said this. If I won the lottery, I would message Paul Bonner, and I'd say, mate, I want you for a personal commission. You can stay here in my house for a couple of weeks. I'm gonna build a home, and in my studio, I want you to paint like one wall or all the walls in my studio. Just go for it, mate. Just paint whatever you like.
That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Either Oldhammer confrontation art, because I love his confrontation artwork as well. It's just incredible. It's some of the best stuff he's ever done. But like the old goblins, as you can see in our backgrounds for our Zoom pictures here, whether it be black or white, whether it be color, I think Paul and a lot of the other artists too, of course, they brought something. They brought the character and flavor and all these. They brought the richness to the Warhammer world.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And how did you get into this, mate? How did this all start?
Well, I kind of best sort of described it as a journey. So I'm kind of just sort of regular guy. The only kind of sort of connection I had with sort of Games Workshop was in kind of sort of the early to sort of mid 80s. I used to work for Games Workshop in sort of Manchester, really, and I kind of sort of worked there for a couple of years. And I'm just sort of a fanboy, really, like kind of like yourself and everyone else. Kind of like everyone, I kind of sort of used to look at the artwork and just kind of sort of was agog by it. Kind of sort of one of the challenges I have is I'm sort of dyslexic, and I kind of sort of score on the autism scale. So for me, trying to read the sort of the sort of the rule books in the older books was almost impossible because of the type because of the tight type font and stuff, so I kind of couldn't sort of engage with the text. So the only way I could kind of sort of really engage with the world was through the pictures and the artwork, really. And then over time, you know, sort of the kind of the sort of the emotional sort of attachment, you know, sort of grew and grew. And then, like everyone else, I just had kind of sort of yearning was, oh, I'd kind of sort of love to, you know, sort of own a, you know, sort of a piece of artwork. And so we're talking around kind of sort of 80s, kind of sort of 90s, and it was the, you know, kind of sort of the internet kind of sort of wasn't around. Then as the internet appeared and then eBay was there, over time you kind of sort of notice, you know, sort of artwork was appearing on eBay every now and again, and I was always kind of sort of late to the room. I'd actually sort of missed the auction, or that sort of kind of sort of things had, you know, sort of got in the way. And then with sort of the growth of kind of sort of social media, I kind of sort of noticed, you know, there was more kind of artwork on the scene, and it just hadn't occurred to me just to reach out to the artists on kind of sort of Facebook at that point. I just hadn't kind of sort of made the connection, you know, that was a thing to do. Then to cut a long story short, I'd emailed sort of Paul Bonner a few times and kind of heard, you know, sort of nothing back. And then sort of, you know, sort of one day I'd posted a photo of my daughter who was taking part in a local sort of Yorkshire sort of school event, and Paul kind of sort of comes from this area, and he kind of saw my Facebook page and said, oh, you know, that's kind of, you know, sort of a lovely, you know, place, and we kind of started kind of sort of friendship. Well, we kind of sort of started talking to each other, and then we've been talking, you know, sort of back and forth on sort of Facebook, and just kind of sort of sharing stuff about, you know, sort of our daily lives. And he kind of made the connection that I'd kind of emailed him earlier about some artwork. I said, yeah, kind of that was me. And he asked how come I'd not reached out and inquired about it. And I told him I thought it'd be kind of sort of too rude of me, you know, sort of essentially to do that. So that kind of led talking to the about the artwork, and talking about his kind of frustrations, how to kind of sort of sell that artwork as well. So by that point, we kind of sort of got to know each other on sort of a personal level. So I've got kind of sort of skill sets, you know, to do with the internet and internet content. And I'd said, well, first of all, I'd buy some artwork for you, but obviously I can try and help you, you know, sort of build a website and sort of build a presence. And we kind of did that. But kind of before that, I bought some pieces of sort of Mark Gibson, and I was kind of sort of doing my own, started to do my own sort of blog thing. So the intention behind the blog was just to me to essentially be part of the Oldhammer community and add something back to the Oldhammer community, and add an extra kind of sort of dimension to it, because it was largely around kind of sort of figure painting and kind of sort of model building. And one of the issues I've got at the moment is I've got arthritis and I can't sort of paint sort of figures anymore, unfortunately. So I kind of sort of moved my attention into trying to start collecting the art pieces. And then it kind of sort of married to sort of together. And the best way to sort of describe it is I became a bit of a gravity well, and people started to reach out to me, and other sort of collectors, you know, started to reach out to me. And I didn't realize that at that point these collectors had tried to reach out to Paul, but the amount of email he gets and sort of volume of email he gets, he was finding it really sort of difficult to sort of manage. So I kind of said, yeah, I can sort of help you with that. And it was kind of an organic kind of sort of growth thing, really. And yeah, so yeah, that was it really. It kind of sort of started from there. So it's kind of fanboy sort of doing his thing, and other sort of fanboys going, oh, that's, you know, when everyone's sort of joining in and sort of leaning in. And at the same time, there's two really nice guys called kind of sort of Jamie and Albert, and they were doing a similar thing at kind of sort of roughly the same time, and we sort of kind of sort of met, and yeah, and we've kind of sort of formed this sort of little community and stuff, and it's sort of really nice, and yeah, it's sort of really nice and pleasant. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, that's great, man. That's awesome. And look where it's now. You know, you've got your own
YouTube
it's
absolutely
channel, Facebook page, and yeah, you're basically the man to know if you wanted to buy, or, you know, acquire, or at least inquire about Oldhammer artwork.
Yeah, at the moment, yeah. So it's it's important to point out that I haven't got a monopoly on the Games Workshop art scene. Artists can be approached any time and anywhere. It's just quite difficult for some of the artists to deal with the technology and sort of the amount of comms, and it's kind of something that I can do relatively sort of resource kind of sort of free. So I'm not this huge hooded sort of Svengali sort of figure, sort of behind the scenes, sort of manipulating things. It's sort of far from that. What I'm trying to do, and it's really kind of difficult, is trying to make it as transparent as possible, because one of the frustrations for the artists is it's kind of sort of the value of the piece. Okay, so there are some players or actors in the scene who will try to acquire a piece from an artist, and then they sort of flip that and sort of try to make profit out of it, and essentially it's kind of sort of taking sort of money away from the artist. And I kind of sort of don't agree with that. I can understand it, but I'm trying to put a mechanism in place to stop that from happening, because one of the interesting things about the artwork at the moment, and as an example, is kind of sort of Magic the Gathering, and this is where, as a collector, I kind of sort of shoot myself in the foot a little bit. So I'm trying to help the artist to get the best and sort of fair value for their piece, and that might take it out of my sort of price bracket. But as what I have noticed about this thing is it's helped me kind of sort of grow as a person. So I'm kind of collecting. One of the collector's kind of mindset is I need to have everything. I just need to collect it. I've made conscious decisions not to do that. So I don't want to take away the opportunity from a person to be able to buy their emotional piece. So, for example, I would only buy a piece that I have an emotional attachment to, and I try not to buy kind of sort of lots of those pieces, and try to allow other people to have opportunity, where other people and other actors in the market will just go, I'll buy everything, and then they will put that away, sort of essentially. So it's about bringing a little bit of kind of sort of fairness into the market for the collectors, the opportunity to buy, but ultimately it's kind of sort of safeguarding the kind of sort of the artist, really. Yeah, and that's essentially what I'm trying to do, really. Yeah.
And before we recorded, we talked a bit about a skip incident at Games Workshop. Can you sort of give us a bit of insight on what that was all about?
So yeah, so there are lots of lovely sort of legends and sort of myths that kind of sort of revolve around the artwork and the history of Games Workshop, and some of it's unclear, and some of things that are events that have been kind of sort of mashed over time to be a sort of singular event. But according to some, in the early days of Games Workshop, the artwork wasn't initially kind of sort of seen as artwork. It was seen as a sort of commercial artifact as such, and they had sort of huge sort of mounds of it, and they didn't really sort of know how to manage it. So in sort of some cases, the artwork was kind of sort of returned to the artist. In some cases, the artwork actually went sort of missing between offices and between sort of printers. In some cases, the artwork was actually kind of sort of thrown away or sort of skipped, and there seems to be either a sort of single event or sort of a couple of events where that happened. And what seems to happen is some of the employees have kind of sort of gone to the skimp and went, you know what, that's far too good to skip, and they kind of sort of pulled it out and sort of rescued it and sort of put it away in a drawer, kind of forgot about it over time. And in kind of sort of some cases, some of that artwork has been lost. In the majority of cases, artwork kind of sort of seems to survive. So what's really interesting is a couple of weeks ago, an anonymous collector reached out to me and had some wonderful Gary sort of chalk illustrations from sort of Talisman 1 first edition. It was like kind of moment. So that kind of told me that some of sort of Gary's work has survived. So I've had conversations with sort of Gary about it, and he was kind of adamant, no, it's all destroyed. It was not returned. So kind of sort of hopefully there's kind of more pieces out there, and I'm trying to track down one of my holy sort of grail pieces, and that's anything to do with kind of sort of Orc's Drift. I haven't kind of sort of come across anything yet, but sort of fingers crossed over time. Hopefully it'll start to appear and stuff like that, and that kind of sort of leads me on to the sort of the Rogue Trader preliminary sketches. So that's just an amazing tale. So I think it was about 20 years ago. There was a lady. She was at a comic conference. She sort of met sort of late sort of Mike McKenna. She was buying some other artwork, and Martin said, would you be interested in this to sort of sweeten the deal? She said, yeah. She bought the artwork. She didn't really understand what this artwork was. She took it home. She looked at it and think, I'll just put it away in the drawer. 20 years later, she kind of posts on a Facebook group site, does anyone sort of recognize this? It's like, oh, kind of moment. So I reached out to the lady, and we've over the time we've actually built kind of sort of a great friendship, and yeah, kind of found the holies of the holies, really. So we're kind of sort of finding all this kind of sort of amazing history of sort of Games Workshop. So yeah, sort of fingers crossed we can sort of find more of it as well, which is really good news. I'm starting to froth now because I'm getting a bit excited.
I can see the passion coming through, man. That's all good. I'm really glad, Andy, that you're the guy sort of in control of this, or not really control, but you're sort of just your passion and desire of collecting and archiving this art, or just restoring it, or making sure it's going to the right people, or controlling the financial aspect of it, looking after the artists, and building up a good rapport with them and friendship with them, which is really good. So I'm really glad it's in safe hands, mate.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Yeah.
But
that's a lot coming from you in the community. That's really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm sure the guys would be really happy. So we would, as much as we appreciate the art, and we may never ourselves ever have the money financially to acquire some of the original art pieces, it's nice to know that the people who do have it well deserving of it. You know what I mean? So that's really good.
So yeah, kind of sort of regard it is a really challenging place to sort of be in. So one of the concerns I have is to make sure that I sort of call them custodians, really, sort of the people who can sort of look after this artwork, essentially actually can sort of can look after it. So I make sure that it sort of gets framed. It kind of sort of goes behind a UV glass. I make sure that they have to sort of follow a little procedure to kind of sort of safeguard this artwork. And one of the initiatives behind it is to get the artwork as either, well, there's kind of sort of two kind of sort of ideas behind it, either to get the artwork as distributed as far and as wide as possible, so we can ensure its survival in all kind of sort of locations. I sort of work in IT, in sort of disaster recovery in some aspects as well, so I kind of sort of bring that into my thinking. And there are a couple of actors, kind of sort of collectors, whose ultimate aim is to establish a gallery or a place of a central resource that will sort of be open to the public as well. So yeah, it's essentially trying to make sure that this art sort of survives kind of sort of beyond and in sort of into the future, really. And that's sort of one of the key things as well. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful, mate. Now, how many actual original artworks do you actually possess yourself?
Myself, I have, I would say, coming up to 30 pieces, 30, no, sort of 35 pieces at the moment.
And
and that's the mix.
what kind of average size would they be generally? Because it's pretty hard to
They
tell.
yeah. Okay, so they vary. So it's kind of sort of dependent on the artist and kind of sort of dependent on the project. So the largest artwork I've come across is sort of Jeff Taylor's. They are absolutely huge pieces.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
example size, just big, really.
Okay. Like a
Beautiful.
1 meter wide, about 1 meter wide.
Yes. So I would say I bought a piece directly from Jeff, and that's the cover for one of the adventure manuals for Warhammer Quest and for Talisman a Talisman expansion set, and I would say that is 1 meter and a bit across and probably 0.5 meter high, and it's just wow. And then you go to the extremes of someone like Paul Bonner or Tony Cuff, who make the most incredibly sort of detailed pieces of artwork, but on sort of such a small scale. So yeah, so the sort of complete extremes, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, did you have to go to some kind of learning process in order to frame and in order to restore or repair or maintain the artworks and preserve them, kind of thing? Like, did you have to?
So again, that's kind of sort of dependent on the artist. So artists like Paul, Mark, Adrian have their own kind of sort of filing system, their own protection sheets, and they're kind of archived in their own way, and they're kind of sort of beautifully kind of looked after. And then you have artists kind of sort of Tony Ackland, kind of old school, who had them initially kind of sort of stored in a box, and then over time he's kind of sort of moved them to sort of binder folder systems. It's the different approach how they do their artwork. So Paul, Adrian, and Mark do theirs on either artboard or optimized, sort of cartridge paper. Tony seems to have grabbed any type of paper that was available at the time, flipped it over, and so they can be quite kind of sort of rough and stuff like that. And they might have to be sort of trimmed, to sort of go into a place. One of my sort of challenges at the moment is I've got OCD, and I'm OCD about sort of framing, and I can't kind of sort of get the right sort of framing and sort of mounting cards. So I was kind of going through kind of sort of a sort of a painful sort of process doing that. I think I've framed sort of 6 Tony Ackland, and I've framed a Tony Huff as well, and that started to do me head in as well, because they're not they're not sort of framed properly in sort of my mind. So yeah, there's a lot of pain and kind of too much kind of sort of thought goes into everything, sort of sometimes, really. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like me with my basing my miniatures. It's kind of framing the model, but then I go through stages where I think, oh no, it's got to change. It's not the right color or something like that. It does make a huge difference. So framing an artwork would be the same kind of thing, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, amazing, mate. Would you like to go and show us some of your artwork collections?
So first of all, I thought I've just received a package from Adrian Smith, and I thought I'd open it.
Wow.
Online. So
yeah.
I've ordered a piece myself, and I've got some other pieces. So generally, I don't get involved, or try not to get involved in the transactions of the deal. I'm kind of sort of more like a facilitator. I try to maintain kind of sort of the focus for the artists and put everything together, and then kind of sort of step back. So in 99.9% of cases, the custodian will kind of sort of deal with the artist directly. I kind of sort of step in the case of sort of Tony Ackland, just because it's easy for him, to sort of manage like that. But at the moment, Adrian's under a lot of pressure with sort of deadlines. So I've an American collector and a British collector who's actually called, I sort of call him out, he's a lovely guy, he's called Matt. So kind of sort of Matt won the Mark sort of Smith kind of sort of Gretchen piece in the auction, and we actually met up with another great guy called Alex Reed at the Ansel exhibition.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of sort of got on with House on sort of fire with that, and sort of incidentally, and I didn't know this, but Matt does his own kind of sort of Facebook and Insta group site, and he basically focuses on kind of sort of the Golden sort of Demon Award. And I kind of sort of knew Matt through his sort of Facebook group site, and it had kind of sort of 1,000 sort of followers. So I'm kind of saying, well, I'll try to get you more kind of sort of followers and was helping him. Unbeknown to me, he had 100,000 followers on Instagram, and he sort of been doing for like, oh wow, okay, yeah. So that kind of a bit of a shock. And he now helps me do kind of sort of some of the posts and kind of sort of the comments on sort of the blog, just because I don't have the time, and his kind of passion's really good. So one of the challenges as well that I've got is kind of sort of my sort of focus is kind of sort of Warhammer sort of 1st edition to sort of 4th edition stuff. Then I kind of lose sort of focus with the kind of sort of later stuff, but that's kind of sort of Matt's passion. So he started to post a lot about that stuff, and it kind of sort of brings in, it kind of sort of balances out kind of sort of really nicely. And I've lost my train of thought now, so I'll just go back. So I'll just go back to the artwork. So yeah, so we're talking about. Right. I think we're talking about the transactions. So yeah, so kind of sort of essentially, I'm kind of a facilitator. I think it's important to mention that I don't take any sort of form of payment, or I don't accept any sort of gifts. So I'm really conscious about that. So the artists have kindly said, you know, we'd like to give you some artwork. I said, no, I can't do that, primarily because it's your asset, and it could be a sort of value, and I'm not in it for that. Essentially, I'm trying to be as humanly neutral as possible. My only privilege is I get to cherry pick the artwork for myself, but I'm a person with sort of limited means, and I'm purposely only sort of focusing on what I have an emotional attachment with. So I wouldn't buy, say, you know, sort of 6th edition artwork, because I just don't have that attachment to it, and I primarily kind of sort of focus on sort of siege artwork, on Skaven, and even older stuff that isn't kind of sort of related to Games Workshop, i.e. sort of Call of Cthulhu stuff in the Ian Livingston days. So kind of sort of, with no further ado, hopefully you can see the bottom. So I actually got this a few days ago.
Nice.
And I've got a will of iron now, so I could just generally I'd be sort of tearing into it, but I have to be in the mind to open it, because I kind of get sort of manic behavior, and I've got to slow myself down to do it, so I have to take my breath. So what I've got to do, I've just got to put some gloves on, because I don't want to get any sort of grease fingerprints of them, and there's a lovely guy in sort of the Warhammer community called sort of Tim, a Canadian guy, and he was having heart attacks because sort of Mark Gibbons was holding a piece of artwork without any gloves, and said, yeah, so
right. Okay.
so yeah, that's an interesting thing as well. So the artists treat the artwork a little bit more, you know, sort of carefree, and the fan bases of saying, oh, it's more of an it's a holy of holy things, right? It's an amazing thing. So I'll just get these out of here. It just sort of might take a bit of time.
Right,
so
take your time.
Another interesting thing that I've discovered is it's Tony Ackland's smell, and he has a smell, and it's the smell of tobacco, and it's a wonderful smell. So the only thing I can describe it is, there's an advert in the UK of a granddad type of character, and these old sort of toffee sweets, and he has this kind of sort of grandson on his, and that's the aroma you get from kind of Tony, because it's this rich sort of tobacco smoke, and even when it's been posted, even before I've got to it downstairs, I can smell the smell in the kitchen. It's the wonderful. It's
Nice.
like you've sort of been in the room. It's like an extra gift.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Lovely. Yeah.
So just open this. So I've not seen this before. So if I start to explode or stuff like that,
No, mate. No, we want your full natural reactions here.
So I apologise.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just flip it up, make sure everything's okay. That's just protection.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I'll just throw that up quite quickly. You see it?
It probably won't come up on the screen, mate, but because of the background.
What I'll do is, well,
do you want to switch cameras, mate?
So what I'll do,
you got plenty of time. I can always edit it, mate. So don't worry. Okay. Yeah. No stress. Take your time. I don't want you to rush.
I'm actually
with unpacking all that. Yeah, mate. I was going to say, just relax.
We just calm down. Yeah, it's one of those things you just get. You just shake and you think, oh wow, and then you start to froth, and it's bizarre. It's like a bizarre experience. Almost like a spiritual experience going on.
It's like almost a personal moment. That's right.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you're sharing it with us, Andy. That's good, mate. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So wow. Gosh. So wow. Wow. Oh, my mouth's gone dry. Let me just look at this piece as well. Oh wow! So there's actually sort of 4 pieces. 3 of them, well, they're all so. Oh my gosh! Wow. Okay. Wow. This is the first time I've actually seen any of Adrian's, sort of kind of work as well. Yeah. So it's like, wow. Trying not to pass out.
Mate, he's an amazing artist, mate. I got my brother onto his YouTube channel through the week because my brother's just got back into drawing again, which is really good because he's really good at drawing, actually. And I said, look, mate, you got to check out Adrian's website because it's just incredible, like his YouTube channel. And yeah, he was just blown away by the skill of the guy. Like, it's just mind blowing.
So yeah, so I'm not a creative by any stretch of the imagination. So even if it comes to sort of painting the figures, I generally copy off sort of box artwork or something.
Don't worry,
like
I do it too, Andy.
Yeah. But the thing about kind of painting kind of sort of figures, it kind of sort of slows me down. It takes kind of stress away. But I just do not know how they approach a piece of artwork, how they draw the first line. So Pete kind of sort of Nifton said the best way to do it is just to draw a line on a piece of paper, and that's how he starts his artwork. But looking at the complexity of how they build the piece up and the depth they do, it's just insane. I just don't know how they do it. And with Adrian's work, it's done in a pencil, and it's the pressure he applies the pencil, the hatching, the detail. It's truly mind-blowing. And yeah, wow, yeah. So sorry, I'm just so.
Take your time, enjoy it.
Okay. Okay, I was so. Oh wow. Okay, so. Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, it won't come up, mate, because of
it won't come up with
the back screen. Yeah.
Thing. Okay,
oh wow, that's that Skaven dude. Yeah, cool.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Awesome.
So wow. Okay. So
yeah,
just let myself down.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So what I'll do is now I'm now going to try to flip the camera onto the thing. So just bear with me a second. I might lose you. This is a piece from Realms of Chaos, the sort of Lost and the Damned, and essentially it was used to a spell description called a spell. I can't actually remember the name of the spell, but it's just try to zoom in a little bit more, see if I can do that. One of the challenges, I don't really know how to work the zoom. See if it's all squared on. So we've got a little kind of nurgling, kind of rocking up in the background, but it's the amount of detail. So one of the interesting things is it's the reproduction value in the books aren't amazing. Okay, and a lot of the pictures were heavily cropped as well. So one of the things that blew me away from the beginning, and it still does, is the level of sort of detail you're seeing above and beyond, what's in the books, and also you're roughly seeing between 30 to 40% of imagery you've not seen before. So the experience that I got was I'm sort of seeing pieces that I've seen for 30, 40 years, then all of a sudden I'm seeing a brand new piece, and it's just a mind-blowing experience, really. And one of the interesting things about going down to the gallery, the Ansel sort of gallery exhibition, was having a look at the detail of sort of Blanche, sort of Miller. It's just insane. It's just insane. So the reproduction values really can't sort of do these sort of pieces justice, and it's the actual presence of them as well. So when I was in the room, the cover for the Macbeth box, it's hard to describe, but the gold was the luminescence of the gold was calling you from about 30 to 40 yards away to go and have a look at it. They just have these strange orange spots, awe-inspiring energies that just sort of pull you in sort of front of the piece. It's sort of the best way I've described it. And then sort of once you're in sort of front of the piece, you can't sort of pull yourself away. So there was 3 or 4 people there, and they were just kind of sort of transfixed with these images. Really, it was just an amazing experience. And people were just sort of talking to themselves, going, "Oh, you could just hear them going, oh my, oh my, oh my." So yeah, I'll sort of stop waffling. I sort of tend to lose myself a little bit. So.
Oh wow!
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So
Bloody hell!
I'm glad you
Mate,
saw. That's
you're
what
right
I
though.
definitely.
Like the reproductions in the books do not do the artwork
No,
justice.
they don't. So unfortunately, I can't get the camera. Let me just see if I can just move that bit there. Do that.
What I might do, Andy, is get you to take like high res photos of these and send it to me, and I can actually place them into the video.
Absolutely. So
that will do them justice, mate. Because
just to let you know, I'm
just gorgeous.
Working on another initiative. So
right.
Jamie,
Jamie,
Jamie is essentially trying to build an online archive of artists and their work. Okay, so he's got a wiki kind of sort of resource, and one of our initiatives is to take the original artwork and store it on there as a resource for kind of sort of the community. The challenge is kind of sort of a time resource at the moment. So Jamie's got the platform and it's working. So there are some artists on there and sort of some work on there, and the artists are doing that. So I'm working with Tony Ackland to essentially sort of scan all these images for an archive, and we can get those on there. And that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm sort of also doing sort of Paul Banner and sort of Adrian Smith. And the ambition is just to get an archive of all the work on there, so it's kind of sort of there for posterity, really. So that's again, that's another piece that's to take sort of Lost in the Damned. And So I've been working on a Skaven sort of project so back in the day, I think I went to a gaming convention in '86 and '87, and it was the first event that sort of Marauder sort of miniatures
right.
were there. And no, sorry, that's a different story. So no, I was at Dragon Meet in Manchester, and they just released the Skaven figures, and I bought as many as I possibly could, and I've had those kind of sort of figures for 40 years. And the ambition was to build a Skaven army, and I was kind of sort of set off, and I'm about halfway through now, and I had to stop because about arthritis, but I will sort of get there. So yeah, so I've actually sort of bought this for myself.
Oh wow, nice, mate.
Yeah, it was just it was an opportunity sort of too good to pass, and it's a stunning piece, and the detailing in is just incredible. I was just trying to pull out a little bit more detail there around the banner. Not sure it's going out of shot.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. That.
You know, plates
Love
of
it.
grass.
Yeah.
Grass.
Mate, it doesn't like, you know, even through the camera, it doesn't do it just like I actually have to see it in person to really, you know, just to take it in all the detail and just the depth, the perspective, everything about it. That, you know, it's incredible. It's an incredible piece of artwork. That.
Which I kind of get lost for words, and it becomes like an emotional level. Mate. It's just like it's just gosh. So I understand them. I'm in a really sort of privileged, you know, sort of place.
Yeah.
You just sort of being able to have kind of sort of access to the artist, but the artist, the sort of selves of, you know, sort of really amazing people, and I kind of sort of lose myself in the conversations with them. So as bestly with Paul, you know, we just end up kind of sort of laughing our heads off halfway through the conversation about old man stuff like that. Yeah, so we're sort of building sort of kind of sort of nice relationships and stuff, which is really
good,
nice.
Mate. Nice.
So this is an ultramarine piece.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yep. Wow.
And again,
that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, I just can't say
holy hell, that's insane.
How sort of mind blowing it is.
And again, this is a very young Adrian Smith. I mean, he's like in his early 20s. Holy hell, that's amazing.
It's just how old was it? It's just ridiculous. So the age of the artist is incredible as well. So if you just bear me a second, I'll try to swap back to my camera. I need to sleep now. Wow, exhausted. So so it's a weird experience. So the first time I opened up Paul Bonner stuff, I had to stop, and I was like, almost sort of spiritual experience. Really, it was just bizarre.
Yeah, I bet you, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, wow. I feel very privileged, mate, to actually be able to see those artworks, even though it's just through that zoom lens. But you can just tell that, you know, there's an extra level of sense of perspective, or not sense of perspective. It's the depth perspective. Like you have totally different when you see it in a White Dwarf or an army book or whatever it might be. So when you actually see the actual artwork, it's totally different.
I can't express how different it is. So I don't know if you were aware, but Adrian sent me a photo of a piece that appears in kind of The Lost and the Damned, and it's one of the final pages, and it's a Chaos Warband with a a plague demon, and they've got kind of sort of las guns. And in the background, it's kind of sort of like a jungle scene. In the background, and the way he'd done the light, I just thought there was a weird thing going on in the background, and I kind of sort of brushed past it. It's only when he sent me the photograph that I realised that what was in the centre of the thing was a giant, sort of Nurgle demon.
Oh, right.
And I've been kind of sort of looking at this piece for like 40 years nearly, and to sort of see that, I was just like, oh my gosh, and it just sort of blew me away. Yeah. I'll send you some images, you can have a look at it. And I sort of posted it online, and I thought it was just me at first, but there's other people in the community saying it's the first time I've seen that. They were just blown away.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible, isn't it? Nice little Easter egg for you, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is. It's all Easter eggs. It's just, it's just insane. So one of the challenges I've got at the moment is time. So there are so many things that I want to do and to bring, but I'm kind of restricted with the amount of posts I can kind of sort of do with kind of sort of Facebook. I'm kind of restricted with time, resource, and chasing down things. So one of the challenges you've got is getting enough time, resource to chase down an artist, to find them, to see they've got that artwork, to let them know there sort of could be value with that, whilst kind of helping the other artists as well. So at some point I've had to kind of sort of step back and say, right, this is only as much as I can do. And then I've kind of sort of reached out to kind of sort of the community, say, I've got this opportunity, sort of, would you be interested in sort of running with it and stuff like that, really? So yeah, it's kind of sort of growing, and we're trying to, well, it's happening on what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, mine's gone blank. An evolutionary approach type of thing. So yeah, it's sort of going really nicely at the moment.
Great, mate. That's excellent. It's very promising. And I'm sure you're going to find many more art pieces out there, whether it's from the artist, whether it's directly, or whether it's from another prospective seller, that they've collected something over the years. Maybe they didn't even know what it was, like that lady you mentioned before. Yeah. So
kind of a couple of interesting things that happened. I've got, sort of various kind of sort of platforms on So one of the things that I found interesting is there are completely sort of different kind of sort of communities on sort of Facebook, Insta, and sort of Reddit. They don't kind of sort of communicate with each other. So I've been kind of sort of trying to sort of bridge those gaps as well, which is kind of sort of interesting. But a gentleman reached out to me who is on Insta, and he basically has got the entire collection from sort of Martin McKenna, from all the full page illustrations from sort of Rogue Trader. So it's sort of nice to know that they sort of still exist. It's nice to know that the person who owns them is as frothy as me, which is always sort of really good. And they are in just sort of amazing condition as well, which is
that's great.
Good, and it still exists. Yeah.
Because that's another worry, isn't it? Like, you may have acquired like one of these 20, 30-year-old pieces of artwork. How do you actually, well, if you frame it, you can pretty much be rest assured it's going to be fairly secure from wear and just general age and time and that kind of thing from it deteriorating.
Well, it kind of depends. So there are some horror stories. So where to begin? So depending on the medium used, the worst one is kind of sort of watercolors. So with sort of Paul Bonner's stuff, it's primarily sort of watercolor. Just to reach the level of detail he does with watercolor is just amazing. But put that to one side. So one of the challenges with watercolor is it kind of sort of gets attacked by sort of UV, and it can sort of fade, and it can sort of fade quite badly. Some colors are sort of more susceptible, so yellows and reds and blues. So for example, I'm sort of going to name drop a lot. It's easier. So I've been sort of talking to John, and some of his original works have started to kind of sort of suffer. So, for example, Amazonia, kind of sort of Gothic, and kind of sort of the Night Panther have started to get sort of fading, because of the UV conditions. The Ansel collection is just amazing. They've essentially kept their artwork in sort of boxes or sort of framed, but hidden away under beds. So they've had kind of sort of less degradation. So when you go into them, they were like they were painted yesterday. They were so fresh, unbelievable. So what I've suggested is that you use a particular type of kind of sort of museum glass or sort of a UV glass. Now, comic collectors will know that depending the type of paper that you use, some of that paper can itself kind of sort of deteriorate over time. So, for example, some of Tony Ackland's stuff, the paper's aged and there's slight bits of kind of yellowing, but to me, that's not an issue. That adds to the art. So we're talking about two things. We're talking about artwork and artifacts. So they are different things. So with a Tony Ackland, you might get a piece of work that has, I'm going to use the word patina, that the paper has aged over time. It might have a coffee stain on, it might have something, but there were living working arguments, and I get more excited knowing this little piece has a little coffee stain from Tony Ackland because he was so excited, and it just adds to it, and that's the type of thing I like. Where in the case of Mark, Adrian, and Paul, they are more obsessive in their sort of detailing and sort of the looking after their work. So they've got individual, protective wraps. They've got kind of sort of references, numbers, and they're generally done on artboard that kind of sort of doesn't tarnish, because that's what it's kind to do. So some of the artwork as well. So it is kind of sad, but since starting this blog, other collectors have reached out to me, and there are some really, really nice people out there. I became friends with a really nice guy who actually sort of passed away, unfortunately, a guy called sort of Kev Worsling, and he was heavily involved in the Dungeons and sort of Dragons scene, and he was a trained art restorer himself, and there was an artist called Brian Williams, and he did some of the early box art and cover artwork for Games Workshop when it was owned by Ian Livingston and Steve Jackson. And Kev had found him but had lost contact with him, and Kev asked me to try to find him, and I managed to find him again. It was a bizarre connection. It actually turned out that he was the next door neighbor of a friend in real life, which is like what's going on, the universe and stuff. So but unfortunately he passed away and his art moved on. But ultimately we found this artwork. This artwork had been stored in the plastic sleeves, and it was oil painting. It had been matted, so the artwork and the plastic had kind of welded together. I know. Kev bought them, had them flown back to America, and then over time had kind of sort of the malar removed and just had them brought back to the original standard. So what we're doing is we're not, so I don't want to give this image that we're trying to make a sort of fast buck. It's not about it's not about the money. It's about, for me, it's about it's the joy of the artwork, helping the artist and trying to find and kind of sort of preserve the artwork. And for me now, it's gone more towards kind of sort of finding, preserving the artwork. So I've got a kind of sort of particular set of challenges or skills that make me really good at sort of finding artwork on the internet, bizarrely. And it sort of kind of stems from that. So yeah, so most of the artwork I've come across, I'd say about 90 to 95% of it is in really good sort of condition, and then there's some that's just either got kind of sort of damaged through either sort of water damage or kind of stuff like that. And that's one of the challenges that happens to Paul. So he's lost a lot of his work through kind of sort of water damage and stuff like that, with sort of a pipe sort of blowing and sort of stuff like that, really. So yeah.
Yeah, may I ask?
Sort of go off at tangents. By the way, so.
That's good, man. It's good. Thanks, Andy. That's been good. All of that's just really interesting for us to know, because it's another world that we just don't have much contact with. You know what I mean? We don't really have contact with the artists or know what the art or where the artwork has gone, or we just see flashes of it here and there, maybe through your channel or through Facebook, or other people pop up with their posts saying, "Oh, look what I bought. I bought this off Mark Gibbons," or something like that, one of these iconic, fourth or second edition 40K pieces or whatever it might be. So it's nice to have a bit of an insight into this art world that does exist, and there are collectors, there are people really passionate about this, like yourself, about preserving and restoring, and whether it be collecting and helping other people find these kind of artworks that they can procure, which would be wonderful. I hope I can be in that sort of financial position at some point where I can say, hey, Paul, would you have something there that I would really like, maybe from the Rogue Trader era, with some Bad Moon orcs or whatever, or Goth orcs or something like that, or something from fantasy like the one behind you or something like that. Yeah, it'd be just wonderful to have that on my wall at some point.
So the challenge is it's getting yourself in a position to think, yeah, I'll do it. But then the next challenge is it's I want another one, and I want another one.
Yeah.
and it literally becomes it literally becomes sort of a crack cocaine.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of people who I've introduced, and they've just gone, oh, I need another piece now. I need another piece now. So I've got to say to them, look, slow down a bit. So, whatever you do, sort of don't buy this stuff on sort of credit or anything like that. Make sure it's not going to become sort of burdensome to you. Yeah. And yeah. And some people just go right off at the deep end and just go, yeah, I'll have this, that, and the other. One of the things for me, and it's really important, is to help with kind of sort of my mental health, like everyone else. I get grumpy, whatever. It's the physical enjoyment I get out of them. So when I see one, it makes me physically smile, and it just takes me away from sort of the daily bullshit, and you just, oh, it's really nice. And it's like a yoga. It's like not yoga, whatever. I don't do yoga.
It's a mental escape. It's the happy pill. Yeah,
it is. It's really a happy pill. So just when I wake up in the morning, I've just got a little picture from a Dark Angels thing. I just really love it. It just makes me smile. It's the first thing I see when I wake up, and it's like, boom, it makes me happy. And I come downstairs. I'm in my 50s, so I'm in my 50s, and I'm trying my best not to turn into a grumpy old man. So I've got the strategically placed. That's when I've got downstairs. I mean, sort of a positive mental attitude type thing.
So these artworks are strategically placed throughout your household, so when you wake up,
to make me happy. Yes.
So when you leave the door, or when you turn your computer on, or whatever it might be, that you're in a happy state. That's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it can bring a lot of positivity, like my hobby does too. I could really dwell in the dumps about a lot of things, but I think my hobby and the interaction I have with the community, like yourself and other people, it takes me away from that. It's a wonderful distraction for a lot of people.
Yep.
And
it's just an amazing hobby, really.
It's awesome, mate. And also, not only is it an awesome hobby that we're sort of interacting with, but the people behind it are also brilliant. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It'd be terrible.
Character.
Yeah. There are some wonderful characters out there. Yeah, exactly, mate. And that's one of the joys I have. It's just, you always have something to look forward to, even though we're sort of reminiscing about something that's happened, 30 odd years ago. It's wonderful that there's still a lot of people really passionate about it, or there is a community
really in my head. It's still happening. So it's not like it's just weird. Yeah.
It's wonderful, isn't it? Because I don't want it to end. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's great.
I'll be happy just to live in this time period forever. You know what I mean? Like it's It does me fine.
there's a TV show. I forgot what it's called. It's kind of sort of it's a guy called sort of Charlie Booker, called Black something or other. I don't know, and it's short episodes of how technology will change our society. And one of those things was that when you died, you became like an AI thing in a computer server, and you could be in any time or space you wanted to that you experienced. And just come on, straight back to Games Workshop in the mid-80s. Just keep going in
Yes,
on sort of
please.
Saturday morning. Yes, please. That's great for me. That's all I want to do.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Like for someone like myself, we never experienced it like in our country. Like in Australia, we couldn't experience Games Workshop at that particular time. So it would be lovely just to go there in the 80s and just walk into a Games Workshop with, probably staff members with like mohawks and tats and
yeah. So I had the privilege of kind of working in there as well, which was really good, and it was just kind of sort of whack characters.
Yeah.
But just the entire scene was amazing. So I remember kind of sort of going down to Games Day in the early days, and we were in a really lucky and unique position because we kind of revolved around kind of sort of Dungeons and Dragons originally. And I was always a Warhammer kiddie and started to play Dungeons and Dragons, and we rolled Dungeons and Dragons. And one of our dungeon masters was actually a lady, a girl, and that was really unusual at the time. But she was so good that she was one of the dungeon masters for Games Day official games. So she was an amazing kind of sort of DM, and she kind of took us to our kind of sort of first Games Day. So we're kind of sort of 15 or 16. She said, "You've got to go dressed in fancy costume. You'll be the only ones there who aren't in fancy costume." So we had this hive of activity, and I remember going down as one of Bowden's elf archers, from Regiment of Renown. So we used to have this game called sort of Sabutio that had a green football pitch. So turned that into a little cape, got like a brown crappy vest, my wellies on, going. So we went down from Manchester on the train, dressed as like elves and dwarfs. People like, what? Oh, stuff going on. So we walked down the street, and we turned around this corner, and there must have been 1,000 people lining up, and they were all dressed normal. We were the only ones dressed in fancy dress, and then everyone just took the piss. Everything's going on. Ah! It was a really funny moment. It was like, oh no, so we're all ditching the costume.
That's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. Good stuff.
Yeah, great. That's wonderful, mate. That'd be awesome. Yeah, wonderful to live through that kind of thing. Well, you did, you guys did in that time, so it'd be awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic, mate. So where do you see the future, mate? Like you were talking before about having some kind of future online kind of gallery or some kind of online.
So that's a really, really good question. So within the community itself, so one of the initial ideas was to allow or to create a space where the artists were comfortable to sell the artwork. Yeah, because from the artist's perspective is they didn't understand the value was in there. So for example, some of the artists were kind of sort of selling their pieces of artwork for between sort of 30 and 40 pounds a piece of artwork, and what was happening is that artwork was kind of sort of resurfacing hundreds of pounds later on. Okay, what's going on here type of thing. And it is kind of sort of human nature, I suppose. We kind of sort of brought up on this kind of factorism. It's all about profit and stuff like that. So yeah, and there are, so moving into this art world, it's kind of opened to my eyes up to the different kind of sort of dynamics and kind of sort of levels going on there. So there are rich individuals who have the resource to just go out and buy an entire collection, and in some cases that's happened. Okay, and I'm kind of happy with that, as long as the artist kind of gets to understand and sort of know the sort of value of that. So a couple of examples have happened where, I'm going to talk in general terms, so I don't want to name artists or anything, but an artist has reached out to me, or a close friend of the artist has reached out to me and said, this piece has been sold. We think we've made a mistake. We think it's worth more than that. And we're stuck. What do we do? So in that instance, I've come in and I've reached out to the party and say, look, we think it's done in haste, and I've kind of sort of renegotiated the position for the artist to like safeguard the artist a little bit. So I'm kind of sort of doing that as well, and I think that's important. So we want to create a safe environment for the artist. We want to make sure that when some of these pieces are bought, that they aren't instantly flipped for sort of greater value, because that seems wrong. So a person who's been in the scene a lot kind of sort of longer than me told me about sort of the various kind of sort of techniques to stop that from happening. And sort of one of those techniques was to build sort of future value into a piece of artwork. So what we're saying is that this piece of artwork is essentially worth this much, but over time, everyone knows that this piece of artwork is going to grow. And if we look at the Magic the Gathering scene, where the artwork is changing there for phenomenal amounts of money, and the growth and that has just been insane, I want to make sure that the artist retains as much value as possible. So I would say to the artist, right, let's build in, sort of 5 years of value into the artist. And what that means is that the new custodian is, the custodian is going to hold on to that piece of artwork longer and care for it more than actually think, I'm going to buy this as an asset, and in sort of 6 months I can sort of flip it. Some cases that's happened, and it's kind of happening at the moment, and other people are reaching out to me to say, this has happened, and I can only sort of safeguard, sort of so many people. So I'm protecting the artist, but I can only do so much to kind of protect kind of sort of the secondary market, because again, one of the dynamics of the market is to move the market, you've got to let pieces be sold naturally on the market to see what kind of sort of level they get, and then you can feed that back to the artist. That's one of the reasons for doing the auctions. So one of the reasons to do the auctions is to try and get a fair market value. Okay, there's two struggles. Getting the artwork to the auction is really impossible, because people will come in and offer kind of sort of ludicrous amounts of money for it, and the artist will just go, you know what, I'll just take that, and that's fair, and that's allowed them to do that. But that doesn't help me or the community to set a fair understanding, and in some cases advance the market for the artist, i.e. what's happening in kind of Magic the Gathering. And as I'm saying this, I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot, because I'm kind of removing myself from the market as well a little bit. So it's a bit of a kind of a juxtaposition. And going back to the other initiatives, like Jamie is working on this initiative to create this free resource so we can create a catalogue of works and associate the artist with that, so we know who's attributed to what. So some of the issues within the publication, some of the artwork has been attributed to the wrong artist, for example.
Oh, right.
So for example, Tony Huff has been attributed to an Ian Miller piece, and sort of vice versa, and stuff like that's going on. So we want to do that, but one of the main reasons is we want to let the fan base actually have a look at the full picture, and not a crop version, and in kind of sort of a much detail as possible. And at the moment, is one of the challenges is obviously it's like Games Workshop copyright, but we're kind of sort of doing it with all open source, and Games Workshop seem to be sort of okay with it at the moment, because it's not an initiative to sort of make any sort of revenue sort of essentially. So yeah, it all seems to be going okay. And then there's a couple of collectors who are fabulously sort of well resourced, and one of those guys, I kind of won't name his name, so I don't want to put any pressure on him. He's a really, really lovely guy, and one of his ambitions is he wants to create a centre focusing primarily on British kind of sort of fantasy illustrators, predominantly kind of sort of Games Workshop and sort of gaming fantasy. Because what you find out is that even though sort of fantasy artwork started before gaming, that gaming artwork is predominantly gaming fantasy artwork is more in sort of the popular culture, and people recognize gaming artwork as fantasy artwork. So he wants to pull all that together, and he's reaching out, or has reached out, to the British Art Council to try and get funding, you know, to do this. And he's kind of reached out to me and say, look, can I get examples of each artist that I can't get access to? And we're kind of making that happen. And again, there seems to be similar initiatives happening in sort of America around sort of Dungeons and Dragons art and sort of other genres of artwork as well and stuff like that. And kind of sort of one of my personal things is I'm not just a Games Workshop fanboy. I love, you know, sort of Grenadier stuff, and I love kind of sort of RuneQuest stuff and sort of Chaosium stuff. I really love kind of the you know, the European stuff. So what a lot of people don't know is when these games are published in France, Germany, or Italy, by law, they've got to have their own kind of sort of national artists to do their artwork. So you get alternative kind of covers and stuff. And I was in kind of a lucky position as a kid growing up that I could get access to this artwork. So I started to track down and sort of buy sort of pieces that, you know, from my own collection, and helping to bring those artists to the prominence of British and sort of American collectors as well. Also, kind of this is amazing. This is so similar as well as was kind of sort of saving artwork to RuneQuest, Chaosium, sort of Lone Wolf, you know, sort of fighting fantasy stuff, and all the main actors or players in there are sort of reaching out to us now to ask, to say, this is the artwork that we've still got, and that's like, wow, that's amazing. But can you get us access, you know, to get that sort of original artwork back as well? So we're getting, in some instances, some of the original artworks going back to, you know, to sort of the original, sort of companies in sort of some cases, but which is sort of nice as well, really. So yeah, it's all lots of stuff going on. It's great. It's great fun.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's excellent, Andy. Thanks, mate. It's been really good insight into what this world of historical art in terms of the gaming industry and how it's being, looked after or taken care of by yourself and other people who feel really passionate about it. So that's really good, because otherwise we could just say we could just think that, oh well, Games Workshop have all these art pieces somewhere stored away in some archive, within their.
So the archive, yeah, wow, the archive. So yeah, so in my head, I thought that's what was happening. I thought they had this.
Me too.
The best way I can describe it was, the scene in Indiana Jones, and they take the lost art of the ark and they put it in a crate and they take it into that huge vault, and there's millions of it. In my mind's eye, I thought that was the Games Workshop archive, some holy holies. No, it's not. So there has been a number of archives, so it's kind of moved and changed over time, depending who you're talking. So even though I'm a trained historian, I sometimes forget the time scale that's involved with Games Workshop. We're talking a generational company, which in itself is amazing. We're talking £1 billion company, which is itself is amazing. It's just I can't understand why it's not happening for Games Workshop in sort of British culture, like TSR and Games Workshop. It's a massive success story, but that's another thing. So over time and over the different locations, they've had different archives. And when people talked about this archive, I've always thought they've talked about this kind of sort of singular archive, and it's not. So the archive to my time and space was basically a large Victorian-esque architect's cabinet with big drawers in where the artwork was bound and stuff, and then that has changed over time to something kind of sort of more substantial. And what appears to have happened is not large, sort of significant artwork was collected in, was kind of left in there. Artists either sort of took it away So, and some of the good stuff was left there as well. So Paul Bonner's amazing cover for the freebooters, the auction. That was that in just in the history of Games Workshop art, that in itself is a seminal piece, breaks away from anything else that's been done before. That was left there, and sort of Des Hanley was basically saying artists used to go to that place and just look at that piece, and then either get a poster of it or hang it near their where their booth where they were working, just for inspiration. So it was kind of used. But what I do know is, and I can say, is that one of the collectors I deal with has singularly got the largest collection of Games Workshop artwork, and that at any time in Games Workshop history is a bigger repository than what Games Workshop is sort of ever had. And I've had to have conversations with this collector to say, so I kind of work in IT, and I know about kind of sort of disaster recovery and kind of sort of redundant locations. Is, for the love of God, don't keep all this stuff in one place. Yeah, make sure it's in fire stuff. Spread it around into different locations, because if you get a flood or a fire, you've gone and you just wiped out. And the realization when that hit him was like, oh crap, yeah, okay. And then there was urgency within, to do that. So yeah, it's just. Wow.
Can I set up an archive in my house? Is that possible?
I think.
Can I be a donor? A donor. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So I
donor
I
initiative.
We should have. So I think we should have a kind of sort of redundant kind of repository in Australia, just in case.
Well, in Japan, Japan.
Sorry, Japan. Yeah, that's even better. So I've actually got.
Sorry, Aussies.
So I've actually got collectors in Australia. So what we haven't got is kind of sort of the Japan side.
That's
so
right.
If we get impacted, we've kind of sort of got that sort of quarter of the planet there. And sort of John sort of wigglies out in sort of Japan as well. So he's got a nice little stash of artwork out there as well.
Yeah. Is John still in? Is John in Japan? I thought he was in UK.
Yeah, I think he's in sort of Japan. I believe he's in Japan.
Okay.
I think so.
I'll have to reach out to him and see how he's going. Yeah. Maybe. I know he's married to a Japanese lady, and it really spun me out. And I think she's based in Osaka, though, so it's quite far from where I am.
So so I was actually freaked out. So for some reason, I actually thought you were based in New Zealand. So one of the problems I've got is I've got Asperger's, and if I make an association in my head, it sticks, and it's really hard to break. It's like, it's New Zealand's Kiwi. No, New Zealand's it really threw me. Japan. Wow. Yeah. Really good.
Who would have thought? The man in Japan,
talking
about Herohammer, it's just it's what are the odds?
You do. And in sort of your paintings and stuff, I really like the sort of the Chaos Army did the
Slanesh one I did for
it's just beautiful. Yeah,
that was for a Kiwi.
That's where I might got the association.
That's where you got the association from.
That's probably where. So you're keeping me going, to be fair, because I kind of live by myself, and I live in the middle of nowhere on the moors, essentially. So I kind of I don't see anyone. And have you kind of sort of seen a film called sort of Silent Stammer? Have you seen a film called sort of Silent Running? It's about a spaceship.
Running.
Yeah, so it's kind of a 1970s dystopian sort of sci-fi epic where the Earth's all dead, and they've got these huge spaceships with plants and trees in.
I think I've seen something like that. Yeah.
I kind of sort of live my life like that, so I don't see anyone from time to time. I've got this little dog, and your stuff's sort of keeping me sane and sort of stopping
good on you, mate. Nice.
COVID.
I'm glad. Well, yeah, vice versa, really. We're reciprocating really well there, because looking at your artworks when you pop them up, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram or through the YouTube channel, that all makes us very happy that we can actually see the original artworks, which is it's something that's really unattainable for anybody, so to have something like what the Foundry did, where they actually had an actual exhibition of a lot of the old artworks, like you say, they've been kept in pristine condition all these years. That would have been just amazing to go to, and to have something like that in the future, like you say, with this collector. He's serious about having some kind of a place where people can go to, like a walk-in gallery, to showcase a lot of UK artists, a lot of their work for fantasy and what they've done, and their dedication over the years for the art would be incredible. I hope to actually see that one day, to witness it. That'd be pretty amazing. So
a couple of the artists have reached out to me and asked
yeah,
if I can create a small event where they can sort of come over and we can get an event thing sort of going. So we're trying to work on that. So Paul's up for it, Adrian's up for it. I think sort of Mark sort of comes over to sort of see his mum every now and again. So if we can sort of if we can sort of try to make it work, the artists are up for it. I think it might be easier. So the Oldhammer event is an amazing thing.
yeah. I was going to suggest that. Bring out your lead. Yeah.
And so I was going to reach out to those guys to see if there was an opportunity, for sort of fusing stuff together, and then with what kind of sort of Diane's done with sort of the gallery wing as well. Hopefully, it can become kind of sort of a new sort of mecca for sort of Oldhammer stuff. Really,
that'd be brilliant, mate. I think that's where you need to go. I was going to suggest that. I think that's pretty much the homeland. Every 12 months, people converge on the mecca of Oldhammer at the Foundry.
And it's so great as well. So essentially, it's this amazing building. And the best way I can describe it is like being a kid and going to sort of a Disneyland or a theme park for the first time. You're incredibly excited. You just met with this huge wall, this huge gate, and this sign. You walk in, you're in this fabulous forecourt, and then there's about 100 kind of sort of middle-aged men with beards, looking really excited and generally overstimulated. And it's just wonderful, and you just go in. It's instantly just connect with everybody, and everyone starts frothing, and they've just gone out of the way to be really, really lovely, and they just want to explain things to you, and it's amazing. So really, sort of lovely, sort of experience really, and sort of kudos for the guys for doing that. It's just sort of really good.
Absolutely. Now, the more I hear about that event, mate, the more I want to go. So it's definitely on the cards. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get there.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, get you
mate,
there,
we'll get there one day. Yeah, why not? I'd even just be happy just to walk around and just chat with people, not even play games, just play some games that people are hosting on the day or whatever. Just come in and say hello and have a chat and all that.
So the best way I can describe it, it's like kind of sort of. But back in the day when you went to a Games Workshop store, so you've got all these, well, they're now men now. You got, I can't call them kids. You got these kids from, and they're just so excited and they want to play the game, they want to talk about the game. The energy and the buzz, it's really nice, and it's at that kind of sort of level where it's not overly big, and it's not a commercial thing by any stretch of the imagination. It's purely, sort of, sort of fan led, and it's just. I'm going to swear it's amazing. It really is. Really good.
I think I think it was one of the years, like 3 or 4 years ago now. I think Nico from the Realms of Chaos blog, where he brought his Space Hulk set down, and I've seen the pictures of it. It's like, wow, yeah. It looked incredible, like having like every single model ever made for Space Hulk, and he designed his own sort of. He painted all the miniatures beautifully and then actually had them photographed and had them sort of photoshopped onto cards and with all their stats and that kind of thing, and like a 3D board, and just something like that would be just spectacular. It's the love and the passion to do that. It just blows me away. It's just wow. Yeah. I mean, I could just sit there and talk to the guy about what he did and his painting and about how he did it and all this kind of stuff. Probably for half a day, you know what I mean? Like, I probably wouldn't actually play that many games, even though I'd want to, but I think it'd be more of just a wonderful social thing to just go down there and have a few beers and just chat with the guys and that's it essentially. That's what it is.
From what I can tell, they either get kind of sort of local hotels or sort of local campsites. So even after the event closes, it sort of continues on the campsite or in the local pubs and stuff.
Yeah,
It's just sort of the next day, everyone's sort of the worst of the wear.
yeah.
Stuff like that. It's really good.
I can imagine. Yeah,
Really good fun.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely awesome, mate. Well, I hope to see you there, Andy, one year.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, you'd be lovely.
Mate,
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. But thank you very much again for your
sort of
time
thank you.
today.
I'm sort of so stoked. And again, I just want to say, sort of thank you for all sort of stuff you do. It's sort of keeping me sane, but it's helped sort of sort of bring the community together, which is sort of really good, stuff like that.
That's really wonderful you to say that, mate. Thank you
So
very
I'm always
much.
available if you sort of need anything as well.
And I appreciate everything you do, mate. So I think the community does as well, and we look forward to seeing what you at the original Oldhammer artwork blogs, sites, whatever medium you use to celebrate all this wonderful artwork from all these wonderful artists will become in the future. So thank you very much again for your time today, mate.
Yeah, and so thank you. I've sort of really enjoyed myself. Cool.
Okay, mate. Take care, and we'll stay in touch. Okay,
cool.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed our interview with Andy today. I certainly did, and thank you very much to Andy for his time. Please check out the Herohammer Fanzine if you have a chance, and download a copy today. It's all free. And go and check out our Crown of Command podcast with all our latest interviews with people around the world talking about the hobby. And if you'd like to support the show, please consider becoming a Patreon for as little as $3 per month. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Take care.